Hey guys, so we're going to start set 8.3 hyperbolas, and we need to figure out, what's the difference between a hyperbola, which is what we're doing today, and an ellipse. So we're going to look at these couple of examples. There we go. So these are examples of hyperbolas. Well, how are they different than the ellipses that we looked at yesterday? First thing is this little plus sign. Oh, sorry, the plus sign that I used to see for ellipses is now a minus sign. That's what they give away for hyperbola. It's a minus sign instead of a hyperbola. Okay? Minus sign instead of a plus sign. The other thing is that with ellipses, we always wrote the x term first. For hyperbola, sometimes the x comes first, sometimes the y comes first. And we'll talk about why that is. Let me pull up my formula sheet. So for hyperbola, the y sometimes comes first. If the y comes first, it tells me it's vertical. If the x comes first, it tells me it's horizontal. Notice the a squared is always the first term. So that actually takes away a lot of the guesswork as to whether it's vertical or horizontal. That y comes first is vertical, a is always first, b is always second. And then it's horizontal, a is still first, b is still second, x over y, x comes first, and then y. The difference with hyperbola is that a no longer has to be bigger than b. A can sometimes be smaller than b, or even the same number. Okay, so that whole thing about a has to be larger than b only applies to ellipses, not hyperbola. Okay, if you look at the formulas though, for center, vertices, foci, notice exactly the same formulas between hyperbola down here and ellipses up there. Exactly the same formulas. One difference though is our equation where we relate a, b, and c is c squared equals a squared plus b squared, which is actually the same as Pythagorean theorem. Whereas up here with ellipses, it was a squared equals b squared plus c squared. So that's the one real difference. So the minus sign, a doesn't have to be bigger than b, and this and that here are the big differences. We see this asymptote equation thing. We'll talk about that at the end of our lesson. We'll get to that. All right, so let's look at some problems. We're going to look at number one first, which I've written out already. There we go. All right. Number one, they want me to find the vertices and foci. So that's the A and the C. All right. With these, it's actually super easy to find A and B at least. I know A has to come first, so that has to be my A squared. That has to be my B squared. So A has to be 12. B has to be 10. All right. Well, I need to know what C is. C squared is A squared plus B squared. So let's see here. That means C squared equals 144 plus 100, which is 244. Here's C squared. So C is the square root of 244. Sure, I could probably simplify that down, but I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. What's our equations? Well, the y is on top, so this is a vertical. If it's vertical, then I know my vertices are going to be h, comma, k plus or minus a. And my foci are going to be h, comma, k plus or minus c. It's vertical. All right. Well, what is h and k? H and k is my center. Well, just like with circles and ellipses, the center comes from up here, It's just y squared and x squared, so my center is 0, 0. Do be careful because we're used to the x coming first. So any value from the y is the y value. So here, if they had numbers there, it'd be opposite. This number would go for the y, this number would go for the x. Those two also count. All right, so we're going to plug those in for h and k, and then plug a and c in. C, what does that give me? So h is 0, k is 0. 0 minus 12 is negative 12. 0 plus 12 is positive 12. There's my vertices. For foci, 0. 0 minus c is just negative square root of 244. And then 0 square root of positive 244. And if you're wondering, yes, I'm perfectly okay with you just writing one coordinate point and saying 0, comma, plus or minus 12, or 0, comma, plus or minus square root of 244. That's fine. I write it out mainly just because I know that's how they're going to read their answer as well. So if you're checking these answers in your classwork, I want to match up with how they do. All right, let's try number 4. Same way. The only difference is I have values up here. So I do have a center. Before I do that though, this is vertical or horizontal. Well, the x comes first. So this one is horizontal. The center is at negative 1, 19 over 2. This right here, this 5, is my a squared. This is my b squared. Well, here, notice my a squared is smaller than my b squared. Okay? That's okay for hyperbola. I want to find out what c is. C squared is a squared plus b squared. 5 plus 85. So c squared is 90. So c is the square root of 90. Okay? So what are my equations for vertices and for foci? Vertices for horizontal is going to be h plus or minus a comma k. Foci, h plus or minus c comma k. Right, let's plug our values in here. H is negative 1. I'm actually going to write these out. So I have negative 1 plus or minus my a. Well, if a squared is 5, a has to be the square root of 5. B has to be the square root of 85. So plus or minus square root of 5, comma, 19 over 2. And then for foci, it's the same thing. Negative 1 plus or minus square root of 90, comma, 19 over 2. So I could write this out as 2 different ones, but actually I'm just going to leave it just like that. If you look at their answer, they'll have negative 1 plus square root of 5, comma, 19 over 2, negative 1 minus square root of 5, 19 over 2. So it's the same thing as those things. Leave that right there. They probably simplify square root of 90. I could change that to, let's see, 9 square root of 90 is 9, 10, so 3 and 3. So I could rewrite that as 3 square root of 10. All right. All right, so let's see, can I go backwards? If they give me vertices, in this case foci, can I go backwards? Sure. Let's look and see my vertices and see which value is changing. Here I see my y value staying the same, my x values changing. Well, because my x value is changing, horizontal. If it's horizontal, first, y comes second, and we'll be in this form right here. All right, what goes inside here? Well, here's my center, my h and my k. Well, we give me foci, which we said for ellipses is a great way of getting my h and k, because it's almost always a square root. H, k, h, k, and of course the value that stays the same, which in this case is the y, is the k. So all that tells me my h is -5, my k is 1, so -1. Right? What about my a and my b? Well, my vertices give me my a. My h is -5. Well, -5 is halfway between 0 and -10. Of course, my center has to be. How do I go from -5 to 0 and -5 to -10? Well, it's just 5 units. Okay, so 5 units gets me there. So my a has to be 5. A is 5. So I'll put this a squared, which is 25 here. I know this value right here is my c. So c is the square root of 106. Okay. And then I can use my c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Okay, I don't know what c squared is. I know a squared is 25. B squared is 106. Excuse me, I'm doing that wrong. I know what c is. I don't know what b is. What is the wrong thing? 106 equals 25 plus b squared. There we go. Subtract 25 from both sides, and I get 70. 100 minus 25 is 75, plus 6 is 81. B squared, of course, the square root of 81 is 9, but all I really care about is the b squared, which can be 81. Right. And move over here to number 10. Okay. We now get into the asymptote side of that. Well, let's pause for just a second before I get to the asymptote. Let's see if I can still do the majority of my equation. All right. So what's staying the same? Well, what's staying the same is the x. So it's the y value that's changing. The y value changing tells me this one is vertical. Okay. Vertical means I'm going to have y come first. Oh, there we go. Where is the center? Well, I know the value that's staying the same has to be the x value of the center. The x value of the center is 7, so I'm going to put -7 here. Now, the asymptote isn't going to give me the center very well, so I'm going to need to figure it out from here. Well, the center has to be halfway between 15 and -5. What is halfway between 15 and -5? Okay, and this is the x value, sorry, the y value, which is k. Well, k is halfway between 15 and -5. Well, half means I'm going to find the average. So I'm just going to say 15 plus -5 divided by 2. That gives me the average. Well, 15 plus -5 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 5 is halfway between 15 and -5. So minus 9. Right. So now let's go back over to our formula sheet and look at asymptotes. Remember, this is vertical. Okay, so we're looking at asymptotes for vertical. Here, asymptote for under vertical, this one right here. Now you'll notice that the asymptote equation on this is very different than the one they gave me, and that's okay because all I care about is the slope. Okay, the slope is A over B. Right? Now notice that's different if I was over here with horizontal. Horizontal is backwards, B over A. But for vertical, my slope formula is A over B. So let's get out that here over here. So that means this right here is my A, my B. Now there's one slight problem with this. The problem is that this fraction could be simplified. So 5 isn't necessarily my A. It could be that they simplified my fraction, my A over B fraction to be 5 over 4. So for instance, if I multiplied top and bottom by 2, I'd get 10 over 8. Well, it's possible that A would be 10 and B would be 8. Okay, now they would put the simplified version here. But I can figure out for sure whether this really is my A, my B. And I can do that because right here is my X value. My X value is 5. Well, how do I go from 5 to 15? Well, 5 plus what is 15? Because that's my A. My A is 5 plus or minus A equals 15 and negative 5. Well, 5 plus 5 is not 15, so I know that's not my A. 5 plus what is 15? Well, 5 plus 10 is 15, so A has to be 10. Okay? Now, A has to be 10. Well, how would I get this number to be 10? Because again, they had to simplify this fraction. We just said that. If I multiply this number by 2, it becomes 10. I multiply by 2, it becomes 10. So I need to multiply this number by 2 as well, which would give me B is 8. Okay? And now I can square those and say 164. All right. Move on to the last one, number 13. Okay. Let's see what they give me. So they give me the foci. I see the X values changing. So this one is horizontal. Looking at my asymptotes, because it's horizontal, not vertical like this one was, because this was horizontal, this is B over A. I know this is my H, this is my K, and that's my C. All right, so what do we know? Well, it's horizontal, so it's going to be X minus Y equals 1. Here's my H, so my H is negative 7, so plus 7 here. My K is negative 5, so plus 5. A and B. Well, again, I think this is B, I think this is A, but it could be simplified. Let's find out for sure. I can find out for sure because I know what C is. So let's think about it. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. C squared would be 313. A squared would be 13 squared. Let's see here. 13 squared, 196. No, 169. And then B squared is 144. So if this adds up to make 313, then that is A, that is B. Let's find out. So 169 plus 144, does it work? Yes. 169 plus 144 is in fact 313. So that is my A, that is my B. A does equal 13, B does equal 12. So right here, I can say 13 squared is 169, B squared is 144.